What's your question?
Sufficient assumption question.
That's right. Yep.
I was just like off mark.
Okay.
This wasn't like one I like even thought I had trouble with, but like it's one of these where you're like, oh, I thought I got that.
So what do you know about sufficient assumption questions?
You want them to be either equal to or larger than.
Yeah. So the correct answer is going to prove the conclusion, right? How many problems are in a sufficient assumption argument? Typically.
And they just one that you're trying to solve that.
Yeah. Do you know why there's only one?
Because if there were more, there would still be points of the argument.
Yeah, it'd be hard to solve it with just one answer choice. Now, there could be more than one, and maybe they solve, but they have to solve all of the problems with one answer choice. So when I read this conclusion, building the convention center will increase the city's tax revenues.
Yeah.
I think it will. I thought it was good, right? So because it's a sufficient assumption question, that means we have to go back and find that problem. Did you do that?
Yeah, and it was like there's not a connection between number. I said there's not where it was going was there's not a connection between an increase in tax revenue and the total number of visitors increasing. Those two aren't the same thing.
Well,
So you have to
the premise right before it says if the number of visitors increases, tax revenues will certainly increase. So you're right. Normally there's not a connection, but they gave us that connection in that last premise. So that's okay. Is the answer A?
Yeah.
I don't know what the answer is, but before we can find it. I mean, the thing is, we just need to go through this step by step and find the gap. See, so you just identified the gap, and then we're like, wait a sec, that's actually not a gap.
Yeah.
So let's just start with the first sentence. If the city builds a proposed convention center, several national professional organizations will hold conventions there. So far, so good. Okay, I mean, it's just telling us that's what will happen. And if several large conventions are held in the city.
No. This one didn't make sense.
Well, there's.
Or just held in the city.
Well, notice what it says. It says the language is a little different. The second half of the first sentence says several national professional organizations. And then it says, and the whole convention there. And then the second sentence says, if several large conventions are held in the city, we don't know whether they're large or not. We just know they're national. Yeah, so that's a problem. There's an assumption that if it's a national professional organization, they're going to be hosting a large convention. And we just need an answer choice that says, yep, if you're national and professional, then your conventions are large. Yep.
So it's just more like, I was kind of chasing around rabbit. So how do you find that distinction when you really?
I'm curious why you thought that was a problem, given the fact that it was a premise.
I was more like, I was still like, I know you do a contradictory premise, but it's like, or did that fully connect all the premises? I wasn't trying to contradict the premise, it was more like, it felt like there's still.
You didn't think it was there, maybe?
Or I didn't think, like, they will certainly, it's like that's still an assumption.
The last sentence?
No, the second last sentence.
Yeah, I mean the second to last sentence.
Yeah.
Why do you think that's an assumption? You don't think that's true? Is that what you're wondering?
I was like, I was just.
So,
Andy,
I think
unstated,
you're
it
being
would be an
skeptical.
assumption.
Wait, hold on, what?
If it was unstated, it would be an assumption.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
But it was said.
Yeah.
So,
So that's like where it was.
yeah. So it's a premise. Is it true in the real world? I have no idea. Probably not.
No, you can't.
But it doesn't matter. We just say, well, they said this. If this is true, then this is true. I mean, all of these could be questioned, right? If the city builds a proposed convention center, several national organizations will hold conventions there. Someone could say, no, they won't. I don't think they'll come. But it's a premise, so we just say, okay, if that happens, then that happens. But they didn't say that the first sentence connects to the second, and so we can go after that.
Yeah, it's more like, other than like read carefully, what's the
Well, I think there's two big takeaways here. One is if it's said,
if it's explicit. Yeah.
if it's a premise as opposed to an intermediate conclusion,
Yeah.
leave it alone. The second thing is, well, it sounds like you went looking for a gap. You just settled on something that wasn't really a gap.
I think that's right. That's right.
But as long as you remember, there's going to be only one or at most two problems in a sufficient assumption question. It gives me confidence to say, okay, I got to go find it.
Yeah.
Because it's not like I have this, like, oh, I found one problem, and they're like, oh, I got you with a different one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and then that's why I put the answer for the correct place. I thought I found it.
Yeah.
And it was like,
That was wrong.
Sort of fit.
Yeah.
I don't really see you. But I didn't think about it. Like, I'll have to go back.
And read this more, yeah. Did you know that that second to last sentence was there? Did you know that premise existed? And you were just questioning that premise? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, that's
one of the
so you can do that if it's an intermediate conclusion.
I see.
Because an intermediate conclusion is something that the author is asserting as true, not because it's just true, but because they're saying it's supported by another premise.
Yeah.
That's one of the ironies. Yeah, you could say, hey, I don't think that intermediate conclusion is true, and let's go after it. Just
Can't